Journalism is considered one of the essential pillars of democracy, and the 3rd of May is World Press Freedom Day. Celebrating and promoting freedom of information continues to be necessary, as across the world, journalists are harassed, fined, and even worse for doing their jobs. The Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan supports freedom of the press worldwide. And today, one of their members, Ilgin Yorulmaz, will give some of her insights into the media landscape and press freedoms in Japan. Now, you've worked as a journalist in many different countries. What are some comparisons that you might make between Japanese media and the journalism in other countries?
I started writing for magazines first and foremost on culture and art and design from London. And of course, and then I was able to work in New York, Istanbul, and also now in Tokyo. So out of those 4 countries, the most, the 2 places where I felt the most free to report on anything and say anything would definitely be London and New York, so UK and US. Having said that, even in US, when I was reporting on, say, politics as a White House Correspondents Association scholar, and that was the Obama time, by the way, during Obama's office. And you could really feel like, yes, we were allowed to ask questions, any questions, okay? But they were still trying to contain the kind of information that was getting out. Japan, where we have the Kisha clubs, those journalist club, it's very different from the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan, where I am the secretary. These are really cozy cocoons in a way. So these are very exclusive sort of clubs, and the journalists there are granted access, but in return, they basically have to self-censor. That's probably the most benign way of putting it. So never in any other country have I seen a Kisha club system like that. Very cozy system, because as you know, journalists are watchdogs, not lapdogs. So I kind of find this really very uniquely Japanese thing, the Kisha Club. I think Japan still has a lot of way to go until they really reach the freedom of press that so many other countries like Scandinavia or Australia, perhaps, and New Zealand, for example, those are the countries where journalists enjoy more freedom, and there's a lot. Both my country, Turkey, and and Japan have to go to reach that level.
In general, how are foreign journalists treated or seen in Japan?
Our club is called Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan, and we have about 1,500 or so journalists, and some of them are Japanese, some of them are foreigners, and we have some, veteran journalists among us, people who've been here their whole lives, really. I think just because we are more free to question everything, I think we have a positive, the Japanese people, I believe, have a positive image of journalists, foreign journalists in general. Never have I been harassed or explicitly criticized. Just on the contrary, when I introduce myself as a journalist, people really, really brighten up, and they always have a story to tell me. So I think overall, I cannot say that we are being mistreated, because you asked how are we treated. But on the other hand, it breaks our hearts to see, for example, my fellow female journalists, Japanese journalists, being treated so differently, and which is why so many talented female journalists are actually choosing to work for foreign media in Japan, which is bizarre. You would have thought, oh, why do they not work for Japanese companies? No, they specifically want to go for places where their skills are evaluated and appreciated.
What do you think will be some of the big shifts in the Japanese media landscape in the future?
I think Japanese media lags behind so many countries, including places like Turkey, for example, when it comes to digital technologies and online journalism. Sadly, I know that there's still a considerable amount of people who are consuming news through print newspapers. That's fine. But when I went back to school, I actually went back to school in 2015 to study at Columbia Journalism School, and there, not just about reporting or the basic journalistic skills, but I was able to also observe and attend lectures on digital media. They have this wonderful center called Tao Center of Digital Journalism, and they are at the forefront, really. Columbia is really at the forefront of digital journalism. When you come back to Japan right after that, because I graduated in 2016 and I moved here in 2017, I was shocked to find that even those big names in Japanese media, big Japanese companies, did not have the technology. We're not really worried about how people were consuming news. So I don't see technology-wise, Japan is where it should be. There are definitely no top editors, female editors, going back to what I was saying just a few minutes ago. That's a shame out of all these G20 countries. And sadly, also, I think in terms of independence, perhaps, I really hope that it's going to be a more independent press in Japan. There are certain investigative digital outlets like Waseda Chronicles, for example. Waseda Chronicle is an investigative journalism, online investigative journalism organization. I would love to see more of those, really holding the powerful accountable. So these are the shifts in terms of technology, gender, relevance, and independence, perhaps, that I want to see in Japan.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed hearing your insights into journalism in Japan and across the world.